and welcome to our next edition of the Value Exchange podcast. I am Annabelle Lambert, and I am joined by my regular co-host Rob Pye. Say hello, Rob Pye.
Hello, hi.
And today, absolutely delighted to be joined by Ahmad, who we first met many, I don't know, probably a couple of years ago, maybe a year and a half ago. He joined Ethos as one of our young leader cohort. We've talked about young leaders before. That's a noisy aeroplane. Which was where we supported 16 to 24-year-olds into work through a scheme which we and with support of the government also invested in a basic income project, allowing people to sort of learn about themselves, what they can do, what they can't do. And we met Ahmad actually for the very first time when we were experimenting with going virtually to a job centre where we met 5-6 young people in a row, and Ahmad was one of those in Leeds, I believe. That's where we first met, and then many months later, here we are, Ahmad now in Pakistan, and I'm going to ask him to tell you and us a little bit about him, who he is, what he's doing, where he is, what's happened, and a bit more about you. So fire away.
Okay. So hello everyone, my name's Ahmad, and I'm currently in Pakistan. I have a master's in electronics and electrical engineering from University of Leeds. And right now, I think we always do it. So the temperature here in Pakistan is around 39 degrees. So yeah, we're in the middle of summer over here. And I would say that so I joined Ethos as a young leader, as Annabelle mentioned, and I worked with them for, I would say, over 1 year. And I was working with them to implement on ClickUp, and there was a range of different projects. It was really nice experience, learned a lot of different stuff. And currently I'm working as a product manager or product associate at a fintech startup where we're helping people with young entrepreneurs and even women entrepreneurs access to credit. And so I would say around 2012, I came to the UK. And I was doing my GCSEs there, and I finished my GCSEs. I did really well. Then I went to A-levels. It was a struggle. A-levels, I would say, was a bit harder then. And then after that, I joined University of Leeds. First, I did my bachelor's, and, the COVID hit. And then I got my master's. And actually, I did my master's, and I had no plan of joining the workforce to begin with. I was just waiting for my friend to finish his master's. So then we both of us wanted to go back. But in the meantime, I was in Leeds, as Annabelle said, and we had this interview, and then I just joined. And I kept working with you lot for like a year, I would say, after that. So even when I came back to Pakistan, we kept on working. There was a lot of different projects that we were doing. And yes, Ethos really helped me find my why to begin with. It's a very people-centric way, of working. And right now, since I joined kind of like the corporate world, and now I have that experience behind me, it makes you have a whole picture of how an organization is run, because I had free access to anything I wanted to learn within Ethos. It's a very remote, private way of working, and it's actually very organized, because we haven't seen each other live in person. I haven't seen Annabelle or Rob live,
Sadly, not yet.
Yes.
Still time.
Yes, there is. And at the same time, it was like the way we were working, it was so organized that right now I go to the corporate world and we're using the same amount of tools, maybe even more. And yes, it's like fire, and you don't know, there's a lot of stuff that keeps happening. I would say Ethos was quite organized in a way. Yep.
Wow, that's the first time I've ever heard us described as organised, which is brilliant. I think that's your engineering brain there, I think. Maybe you organised us,
Maybe it was ClickUp, maybe, yes.
So, Annabelle, interrupt and lots of questions. But so lots of really special things, Ahmad, that have come out in working with you. And so we had this 6-month program, which we were we're only able to afford to pay like a basic income to give people work experience, and we gave 65 young people a chance to kind of be employed. But when we first came across you, having a master's degree in electronic engineering is kind of not the obvious kind of fit that we had from lots of other young people. You had, one of a small number of people had master's degrees. Many people didn't have degrees. Many people didn't have lots of formal education. But then the first bit that we do in this thing called value exchange is ask the individual to kind of, unpick who they are and what they'd like to do in the workforce. I don't know whether you can think back to first joining Ethos and what that first experience was kind of like when, you join the workforce, and most workforce, nearly every employer would go, right, you're going to make the tea, you're going to do this, you're going to, this is what we've got, yep. You will do this. But Ethos, we with everyone, it's sort of like, who are you? What would you like to do? And you hadn't really been thinking about that, as you just said. So how did that go? How did you manage to cope with that?
So I would say when I first had my interview, I saw Ethos. We had that interview. Then I was going back. I researched a little bit more, and then I filled out the necessary forms and the Google Sheets. And once I joined, and it got me thinking. Once I filled in my value exchange, and it got me thinking. Okay, what is the why? What are the changes I would like to see in this world? And then I wouldn't say I found it immediately. You have to keep working, you have to keep revisiting, and it keeps changing over time, Right.
And again, I always love to say I'm 57 and I have no idea what I want to do when I grow up. And I think that's the point, isn't it? It's like, you're always searching, you never find an answer. But,
So I think when I joined Ethos and I was working with them, I think for the first maybe a couple of weeks, they were like, okay, just go join whichever meeting you want to, try and make a role and do whatever you feel like comfortable in, whatever you think could be your passion. And then, I still remember I was going into social media meetings, I was attending them, and then I was everywhere, whichever things that resonated with me, I was joining those meetings, trying to add value. So I think that was quite an incredible experience right from the beginning, because it didn't feel like, okay, so this is what you are, this is the information, go take it, start reading these documents, and these are the projects, and we choose you for this project, so go jump in. So I think it was very unnatural way of you find your own flow, you see, okay, this is the project that I would like to do, this is something that resonates with me, probably my experience, something that I would like to build a career on. And then I joined in, because I would say, in a way, because within my own group, we are like 6-7 engineering friends, and we are all from University of Leeds. All of us probably got first class as well. But I would say only 3 of them are currently working in a degree where it requires an electronics engineering degree. So one of them wants to be a historian. One of them is he's running with political campaigns, and he wants to be a historian, and he has a master's in engineering. And another one, he wants to be a front-end developer. He did 1 year at an engineering firm, and I think he was doing something you call quiet quitting, where it wasn't really his passion. Now they have a term for it. We were calling him lazy, but I think now they have a term for it. So he was...
That is the quote of the session. Oh my goodness.
He was working there for a year, and he worked there, and then he was like, this is not my passion. I want to be a front-end developer. And now he's doing the certifications for it. So he's actually out there, and he's willing to, go and follow his dream. Because I think even me, myself, because I'm a product manager, it requires no engineering degree. And I'm in the finance or, the fintech industry. And I think even before joining Ethos, I had decided I'm not probably going to pursue a degree or pursue work in electronics and engineering. But I think even though there was a nice path leading towards engineering, I did my electronics in A-levels, I got A's and A stars. But I think I was not able to, it wasn't really my passion or my why. So I think just having that conversation, even because I thought it was very later on in the career, Like I shouldn't be asking those questions. I should just jump in and just, be an engineer because you have a degree in engineering, so go be an engineer. But I think if you just, just keep working, just, follow your dreams and something just happens. And right now I want to be a product manager because I look at research, I look at the passion, and, it just fits in.
I used to work for a company called Thales, which is a global company with 70,000 electronic engineers in it. I'm not an electronics. I like electronics. My degree was computer science, but different pathways. Would you, if you had your time again, knowing what you know now, would you? I mean, electronic A level, but degree, was it the right degree or?
Well, no, here's the thing. Like, I actually support universities because, there's a lot of people who say, okay, universities are not good. But to me, personally, I would say, for an 18 to 24-year-old, like, university is the best place you can be because it's very organized. Actually, you go in there, you learn, and, you follow a procedure, even though it can improve, Like, I'm a byproduct. I can tell, like, a lot of things in the university could improve. But if I could do something differently, I would say I would take even more time deciding what to do. So, like, in 18 years old, because I was very young and my sister was an electronics engineer. So I used to go around the house, I used to find a voltmeter. So, that piqued my interest. So I used to play with it. But like, I never thought so I just got a degree, then I did electronics, and then, I just kept doing it until I had like a master's degree in my hand. And it was something I didn't want to pursue. So I think just having that conversation again and again and just following just figuring out what you want to do early on I think is a very key advantage that you have.
I have an oscilloscope on my shelf. I love playing.
I think yeah, it's sort of, I think when I was 18, I didn't fall into my degree, but I didn't get my A levels that I wasn't expecting anything. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know where I was going or what I was doing, but I knew that I enjoyed history. So I ended up doing history, and I had a strange pathway into university. But anyway, that's a different story. But really enjoyed it. And I don't regret it now at all. It's part of me having done that. But I wasn't academic, and I was never, and I think in hindsight, I don't know whether I would have gone to university, although I really enjoyed it. I loved every minute of it for everything other than perhaps the education, which was fine. But I did, it was taking me. I never wasn't even thinking about work at that point. I worked, from 16 onwards, doing various jobs, earning money, so I was always working, and it never crossed my mind that, university was a pathway to work, really. In many senses, not when you do something like history, because it's not vocational unless you're going to become a historian, and that's very few people are your friend. but yeah, interesting because my daughter is now about to go to university, and I'm very supportive of what she's chosen to do. I think it is this, she's off to do sociology, and it's a subject of the future, and we need people who understand people to get through whatever is lying ahead, over the next few years, for sure. So anyway, that's really interesting.
But like at the same time, I would say that I would still go to university. I would pursue like a bachelor's or a master's, definitely, even though it wouldn't be the right, because even right now I'm an engineer, but I think that opens up a lot of doors as well, because I literally have my pick of the companies I want to work with, because they look at the history and they're like, okay, engineer, and then you work with startups, within Ethos as well. Any type of experience just builds up on it, and I can just pick my own companies, even because I didn't apply to that many jobs, and I just picked a startup that aligned with my vision, that was quite impactful, and it was a startup, so it's always good, and it was right next to my house, so I could just have my own.
Now you tell us.
So I want to pick up this story. You came into Ethos. You said go and figure out what you want to do. We make it sound quite random, but we had quite a strong network of young people providing each other mentoring, well-being support, and that was really tight, really close. Do you have any memories of the sort of group of, because nobody had met each other. It wasn't like you all sitting in a room, but you did support each other in that sort of the network. Do you have any reflections on the role of other young people in helping you, or you
yes,
to
yes,
them?
exactly. Actually, it was quite good because we would have like those mentoring sessions where someone has to be your work mentor and you have to be someone's work mentor. And then there was also the well-being sessions. So I have to be someone's well-being mentor, and then they would have to do the same. So I think it would be a really nice way to connect with each other. So every week I would go and ask a person like, okay, how was your life? What went well? How can we help you? And the same, like someone would be asking me the same question. And I would say like I met a lot of different things which I never really expected. So I was well-being mentor for someone. I forgot the name, but I think the other person had insomnia. So I actually had no like relations because I sleep I just sleep. I sleep quite well.
Wake up, Ahmed! Wake up!
So actually, I had no connections. But then you talk about it. You talk about the problem and the impact it can have, and it makes you a really good listener. And you also realize, okay, this is a problem, and people do struggle with it, and so it was all those kind of little things that were there. And at the same time, these young people, when you connect with them, each one of them have their own way of working. So some of them come up with really good ideas. Some of it doesn't make sense. It goes both ways. But I think it's just having exposure to both sides of the working is really nice. And we were all virtual, but I think just connecting with each other, just having that community was really nice.
Yeah, and so then sort of moving on, when one of our experiments was a new workforce platform that we adopted, something called ClickUp, ClickUp.com, which is a productivity tool, sort of one tool to replace all the others. It's got a great user interface, and it's a West Coast tech startup company that's got $600 million of funding to finance the platform. And your ability to kind of pick stuff up, technical, you became like the product expert for ClickUp. But that ClickUp was like one of many tools, but it was the one we kind of fell in love with after falling out of love with many others as well. And you became a bit of a sort of a go-to person for helping to, help with lots of ClickUp stuff. Is that something, not the tool, but is that necessarily, but what you learnt there, what did you learn there?
So I would say organizations, just setting up, because the way we used to do work is basically, it's replicated all around the world, to be fair. Everyone
agile scrum, that kind of agile.
Yes. So you take a goal, you break it down into initiatives, and then you break it down into features. That's the product cycle. So I think what we were doing was quite similar, and just having, going into meetings with like Rob and Tony, where they debate about process and procedures, and I didn't used to understand it, but now I do, like when I go in depth into that level, I do understand that.
I'm terribly sorry, Ahmed, that we did that to you. No,
yeah, I apologize too. You're still alive. So,
nobody should be exposed to that.
Emma's talking about another co-founder called Tony. And sometimes when we get into a rap with one another, we kind of lose ourselves in ourselves. And it's very deep and meaningful about process and stuff like that.
So I think just that whole idea of like creating processes, bringing, because once you're a big team, you need some kind of organization. There's too much chaos everywhere. So, it's just about that processes and the agile way of working. You build goals, you build processes, and, you relate it down to initiatives. And yes, it's basically the same way all companies around the world work. And you can quite well replicate it just virtually through these tools.
Yeah, and particularly valuable experience in a big company or a small company where you've kind of seen that, to create something that is more than one or two people, you do need to be able to organise. And we've still got quite a unique model of looking at people, organisations, opportunities, work, and then this thing called value exchange, which is what, how do people interpret meaning? What do they want to do? And part of what we're doing a lot of with value exchange and is doing another productization of that, of actually being able to use AI and use a lot of online delivery to automate stuff that we're doing. Annabelle, I'll give my tonsils a rest if you've got questions on what next.
So I mean, earlier on you mentioned about sort of aligning, finding your impact, the fact that matters to you. I just wondered where and at what point you sort of that became something that was meaningful to you. Why is that part of what you're pursuing? When was your awakening to impact?
Well, to be fair, I would say when I began working, it was never on my mind. I was like, what is easy for me? How can I get into a career? And, but I think as you get more opportunities, because as soon as I tell them I've worked with impact startups and, with Ethos, I have experience in ESG and stuff like that. As soon as I say that, I think the doors it opens up is always going to be something similar. And I think, and then you go to those doors and then you figure out what you want to do. And at the point, I think right now I'm at a point where I wouldn't really go for a company who doesn't align with my, because I can have it, I think in a way. So right now I can have a company who's impactful. So why would I go for a company which is not? So I think that's what's changed in my mind. And then I think as you get older, you start thinking about, other things as well, rather than money. You start thinking about, okay, how useful is the work that I'm doing? Because you can work anywhere, to be fair. Anyone can find work, with relevant experience, I would say. So the idea is, if the work I'm doing, is it impactful? Is it changing something, so I think that's where I started. I wouldn't say I have this conversation with myself, where I'm like, what change am I going to make today? But I think gradually you start leaning, and then one day you wake up and then yes, you want to be impactful in your work, I would say.
It's quite interesting, because I think we're quite different as an organization in not having a particular social impact in mind or environmental impact, but the belief that if what you're doing in your life isn't helping people or planet, then don't bother doing it. But wherever you are, and wherever you are on that journey, we think everybody is on a journey to uncover it, even if it takes 57 years or many, you're someone is still a young man, and you found, through rehearsing it quite early on. I mean, if I look at my life, this awakening was really late. I was sort of, I wasn't in touch with it at all. I think younger people are much more in touch with it than older people, but I cannot confess to having social impact even on my agenda, in my early career, in the first 20 years or 15 years of my career. It just wasn't in my mind. So it just takes however long it takes.
Yeah, I would say the same with you talked about younger people feeling a lot of it, they really want to change the world. Like, I wasn't really one of them, to be fair. I joined the bandwagon very late, but I think once you get a feel for it, once you start finding, some kind of like you feel a bit more content, because you're like, okay, I'm working this, and this is the bigger picture. I think there's something called like big, hairy, audacious goal, your BHAG. And I think once you get that BHAG right, I think it works really well.
Yeah, nice. And what would you tell young people? What would you tell your younger self? Like younger as in only 2 years younger,
now.
or 3, or other young people, like you, who may be 2 or 3 years younger. What advice would you give them?
Well, I would say, because I used to talk like, because the way I was within, when I was living in Leeds, when I was growing up in the UK, I would say that I was, the neighborhoods I used to live in wasn't really that posh. The college I went to is a city center college in Manchester, so it's town center. You don't really have like the finest facilities and stuff like that. You meet a very range of different people. So I think there's a lot of this conversation that we have with all of these people. They're a friend of mine and stuff like that. And I think to really change, because I think UK has a lot of opportunities. To be fair, like I think even though it could improve, because anything could improve, but I think just starting from zero, where like UK provides a lot of opportunities, and I just basically tell them, go for those opportunities, try and work hard. A lot of people don't really avail these opportunities. I remember a friend of mine, and he had a cousin. Now he was really smart. Like he was doing A levels, and we used to tell him like, okay, he's quite smart, and he could really get into like University of Leeds. And we used to have this discussion where he was like, I don't want to go to I don't want to go to university at all. And we used to have this debate with him, because I was in the university and my friends were in the university. We should try to convince him basically that come go to the university and stuff like that. And actually we had this discussion because our why and we weren't that aligned. So we would have this discussion, we would have this debate, and would come out and we're like, okay, maybe it might work the other way around. Instead of we really convincing him to go to uni, he might convince us to leave, because we're not that aligned. But I would say at the end he completed his stuff, and now he's actually, I think he's going for electronics engineering. He's in second year. And I think for us, just that conversation, that's just that idea of opportunity was university. I think to a lot of people, where like you just work hard, or even if you don't work hard, I think university is very easy. You have access programs, many different ways somehow, or just learn a skill. That's what we used to tell him. We used to debate with him, and I think he listened. And right now, I think he has a really nice career path. He can choose. He can make mistakes now. Even though he's in the university, you get that opportunity of making mistakes as well. And I think if I was 18 years old and I would have all the space that I like, then I think it wouldn't really. I think I wouldn't be that organized. I wouldn't stay on a single lane. I think I would just run away here and there, really. So I think advice to everyone is to follow a path, I would say, and it will lead to
interesting.
somewhere.
So maybe not necessarily, doesn't matter which path, but just follow a path.
Just follow a path. I would say
that's very wise words. Very wise words. Annabelle, do you have anything?
I feel I just want to add that follow a path until you need to change the path,
Yes,
but
yes,
feel
definitely.
empowered to change it.
Yeah.
I mean, we have experience with other young leaders who are, super, super smart, could have university, but didn't and chose not to, so that argument, like and there's so much consideration, isn't there, today about why, the cost of it all is one thing, but what does that mean? But yeah, I think, that's good advice. Do something and
Yes.
give it a good go, and then
Yes.
but feel free to change it. I think is it's a journey, A to B.
Was
it's a constant
Jake's story, wasn't it? It was kind of like try everything once, which is fantastic. And so we're next. What's the next chapter, Ahmed, for you? Are there goals or projects or things that are really exciting you at the moment?
Yes. So the projects, I'm just I'm right in the center of it. We are going to be presenting our startup, or like our demo MVP in Canada next year, probably after 2 weeks actually. So we're going to be unveiling our demo there, and after that, it's just a version 1, version 2. A lot of good ideas. One of them is actually helping young learners collateralize their degrees to get a student loan. So it's using alternate ways of helping people, of creating that opportunity. As I said, like in the UK, everyone has opportunities. But like countries like Pakistan, India, all the rest of them, they don't really have those opportunities. So how do we find alternate ways of creating opportunities and breaking barriers, I think. So yeah, a lot of different projects and a lot of excitement there. And I think if we succeed, a lot of people will be impacted. Yes.
Fantastic. Okay, we've reached our 30 minutes, which is where we try to get to. Rob, do you have anything else you want to ask?
No, what I do want to say though is that I want to say something rather than ask a question. Is that I feel very privileged to have worked with Ahmad, because Ahmad, you just gave so much more than you took, and we worked on Tech for Good and ClickUp and so many crazy things that haven't generated money. But I think we both learned, and I just wanted to do a big shout out for all the support you've given me, and I think that you've taught me more than I've taught you, I think, so thank you for that. It's been wonderful working with you, and I hope we keep in touch and we can do some more crazy things together in future, because honestly, you're a super young man, and it was lovely working with you.
Indeed.
No. Actually, I would like to add that, the experience, it was really good for me as well. Just learning from Rob and Annabelle and, Tony, all of them directly was really, was really good. And I would say, like, even if you don't take in monetarily, I think the experiences that you take in, they're worth quite a lot. And yes, so it was really nice working with, at Ethos, and it really helped define me, of what career path I would like to take. So yes, thank you.
Fantastic. So thank you for your time. I don't know what time it is. We never asked what time it was in Pakistan. I can't remember.
It's around 9.
9 a.m. Well, have a great day.
9 p.m.
9 p.m. Oh, because you're in front. Oh, well, thank you for staying up. That's
He's just waking up now, young person. Right. So, until the next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.